The local agency formation commission to order Monday, September 14th, 2020 at 9:01. And I would like the clerk to conduct the roll call, please. Are you hearing me?
Good morning. Yes, I think I tried to unmute and then I got muted and then
okay.
I'm here.
All righty.
All right. Good morning, commissioners. Commissioner McCowan, is he here? Commissioner Ignacio.
Present.
Commissioner Ward.
Here.
Commissioner Winkle.
Here.
And currently Commissioner Bazzani.
Here.
And I do not believe we have a quorum as far as I can see.
It looks like we have 4 of 7.
Oh, is that 4 of 7?
How about Jerry Gonzalez?
Kristen, please put the whole roll.
Oh, sure. Definitely. Commissioner Orth. Commissioner McCowan. Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Ward.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez. Commissioner Ignacio.
Present.
And Commissioner Bazzani.
Here.
Commissioner Winkle.
Here.
Thank you. I do believe we have a quorum.
Okay, so basically, I'm looking, and we do have a quorum. Commissioner Orth, our vice chair, had a conflict because of the evacuations and some other commitments, and I'm sure with Brick Trails, that's what he's doing. Not sure about Commissioner Gonzalez. He may have a role because there's more evacuations going on. And not sure about Commissioner McCowan, but let us go forward with the meeting. And we'll go next to public expression. And the commission welcomes participation in the LAFCO meeting. Any person may address the commission on any subject within the jurisdiction of LAFCO, which is not on the agenda. There is a 3-minute limit and no action will be taken at the meeting. So we'll go to public expression.
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can. Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, I was trying to get on and for some reason was not getting through, but I heard Jerry say his name earlier. Anyway, glad to be here. Thank you.
I'm glad you are. Welcome. Okay, moving on to the consent calendar. We have items 3A, 3B, and 3C. Commissioners, do you have comment?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner McCowan.
I do have comments about the legal billing. I do not find it to be a model of clarity. It starts out, it shows all the time devoted to CALAFCO, which is 2.65 hours. Then it goes into detail about services provided directly to Mendocino LAFCO, starting out with noting the monthly flat rate, but not showing hours for that. And of course, it's a flat rate. And then there's the totaling of the hours, but and showing $900 as the cost for 8.2 hours. So that's lower than the hourly rate. But from this billing, and then the notations at the bottom of that don't add much clarity. We have a 420 previous invoice balance, which I think that's an odd number for a previous balance. I think we generally pay invoices in full when due. Then it does show credit for a payment, and then it shows a payment applied to more. Again, it's not easy for me to figure out what's going on with the billing there, so I'd appreciate an explanation. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Ms. Hinman. Can you give an explanation? It was clear to me.
Sure, thank you. So he does log his hours and then charges a flat rate every month, but he does track the actual hours spent because our average is only good for like 3 or 4 a month. And then if he is consistently spending above the hours, the average hours that is allocated for general services, then he will have to adjust at some point. So that's why he tracks the actual hours, but charges the monthly rate. As far as the previous invoice balance, that has carried forward a couple of months, and I think that we can ask them to revise that. Essentially, it's just saying that that was a previous amount due, and then there was a portion of that was applied to Moore's that was paid out of the Moore's deposit. So I can ask for him to clear that up in the next invoice.
Well,
I'd like to move forward. Commissioner Ward?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner McCowan. It is a little difficult to follow, but I think Uma gave a good explanation. Hopefully we'll see some better results next month. It did pencil out. I didn't have any questions about the dollar amounts, just the way the invoice is presented to us. And I'd like to also add that I want to commend our clerk for the minutes. They're getting more and more difficult to follow, but she did a great job. I appreciate that.
I appreciate that also, and thank you for bringing that up. Commissioner Ignacio, comment?
No, everything looked great. I appreciate Commissioner McCowan bringing up the point about the clarification. That's important. And I'd also like, for those that are listening, we'd like to welcome Commissioner Gonzalez to the group today too. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and thank you for letting me know since I'm blind, only being on the phone. And welcome to Commissioner Gonzalez. And clerk, please show he's present at the meeting. Going forward, Commissioner Bazzoni, you have comment. I think you're on mute.
My computer is not working.
We can hear you. Nope, you had it. We could hear you.
Okay. Moving forward, alternate Commissioner Winkle, comment?
Yeah.
None at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez, we're on the consent calendar. You have comments.
I agree with Commissioner Ignacio and McCowan and Ward. Just I appreciate the numbers look good, but the explanation it's confusing. But thank you very much. And also there's no chat function or something. I was going to try and let the clerk know I was in and not trying to interrupt you earlier. So that's all.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And I would like to note the certificate of appreciation for Commissioner John Huff. Commissioner McCowan, do you have further comment? You're on mute, John.
thank you. I think we've already heard that our executive director will work with legal counsel to provide a bit more clarity in the legal billing, so I appreciate that. I would note also in the minutes the reference to county service area, one of the references omits the number 3. So I think that should be corrected to county service area 3'S.
Okay, and what page, sir?
I don't have it in front of me. I just did read it, but we could ask the staff to simply check that and correct it if appropriate. And with that, I would move approval of the consent calendar.
So we have a motion by Commissioner McCowan. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Ward, second.
Comment, Commissioner Ignacio.
Sir, go forward.
The correction Commissioner McCowan's referring to is on the middle of page 12.
Thank you. Did the clerk get that?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay, and the correction was included in the motion?
Yes.
Correct.
All righty. So we have a motion by Commissioner McCowan, a second by
Okay.
whom?
Commissioner Ward.
Commissioner Ward.
Actually, like on a Zoom meeting right now.
Okay. Thank you. I just heard 2 voices, so I wanted to make sure that it was recorded. Please do a roll call vote.
All right. Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Bazzani,
Can you hear me?
yes, yes, again.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Ignacio,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Winkle,
Yes.
Chair Brown.
Yes.
Thank you.
Should Commissioner Winkle be voting?
I was just going to say that question. He is an alternate, but he's an alternate to the public member. We do have Commissioner Ward seated. So roll call votes, he will not be called on.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, going to item number 4, public hearing items. We have none. And going to number 5, workshop items, there are none. Going to item 6, we have a number of matters for discussion and possible action. And we will go to item 6A. And this is a release request for proposals and establish an ad hoc committee for work plan implementation. Staff, would you like to present this, or do you want me to?
Thank you. I'm prepared to do a presentation on it.
Great, go forward.
Thank you. We did discuss this item or the list for consultants with the executive committee at the August 13th meeting. Over the past few months, our workload has increased due to a number of applications and operational tasks that have stretched our staff capacity. The time-sensitive nature of application processing and applicant needs necessitates that applications do take precedence over implementation of the work plan. The applications that we currently have on file are all related to the agencies scheduled for the MSR and sphere updates in this current year. Those are the City of Ukiah, Ukiah Valley Sanitation District, and the Ukiah Valley Fire District. Due to the complexity of the issues for these agencies, staff is recommending distribution of an RFP for preparation of the municipal service review and sphere updates for the City of Ukiah and the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District, with the intent that LAFCO enter into contract directly with a private consultant to prepare these studies. Staff would continue to work on the Ukiah Valley Fire District, the Covelo CS Community Services District, and County Service Area 3 studies as time and budget allowed. It's important to note that our work plan budget and assumptions do not include CEQA analysis. LAFCO practice has been to consider only coterminous spheres, which allows for CEQA exemptions unless an agency requests otherwise and pays for the CEQA analysis. This approach has allowed the Commission to keep apportionment costs low for its members. However, it is anticipated that both the City of Ukiah and the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District sphere updates will require CEQA documents greater than an exemption. Should the Commission agree to the issuance of the RFP and entering into contract with a consultant to prepare the studies, staff is requesting the Commission establish an ad hoc committee made up of 2 commissioners and the executive officer to implement the process and make recommendations to the Commission. A draft request for proposals is included in your agenda packet on page 34, and a tentative schedule is included in the packet on page 33. Staff is requesting approval of the release of the draft RFP and appointment of an RFP ad hoc committee to implement the RFP and firm selection process. And that concludes my presentation at this time.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Commissioner Ward. Do you have comment or questions, sir?
Yes, I do. First of all, Madam Chair, Uma, why wasn't this brought up during our budget process just a few months ago? Second of all, I believe the cost for the City of Ukiah was $25,000 and the sanitation district was $5,000. What if the RFP process exceeds those numbers? How are we going to budget those in? And I'll think of the third one later, but thank you for letting me ask those questions.
Okay. Ms. Hinman, response?
Sure. The reason it wasn't brought forward in the budgeting process was because we didn't have the applications on file, so staff had intended to move forward with preparing the MSR and sphere updates in-house. Since then, we've received 3 applications, actually within the last month and a half or so that we've been trying to work through. And the second question about the budget, during our budgeting process, we had assumed that the City of Ukiah would be a 2-year project because of our budget limitations. And so that would be worked into the contract with a private consultant to make sure that we did not, or to try to not exceed the budget in each fiscal year.
Madam Chair, the third question was, are there going to be 2 separate RFPs, one for each project?
If I may, we have written the RFP such that we could have separate consultants, or a consultant could apply for, or could put forward for both, preparing both.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Commissioner Gonzalez, any statements or questions?
No, I believe Commissioner Ward covered it. I was just concerned about the budgeting issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ignacio.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No further questions at this time. Has my support.
Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, one question I have, and first of all, I support staff proposal to appoint an ad hoc, and we can discuss later who should be on it. I have a couple of commissioners in mind that I hope will serve. I'm concerned, is it clear that the applicants will be paying, since I believe each of these issues is triggered by the action of the applicant. So we have an application for detachment. We have 2 applications for annexation. These are all going over and above a standard municipal service review or SOI update where no changes are requested. So am I correct in thinking that the cost of this contract, if it comes to that, will be borne by the applicants?
Ms. Hinman?
Well, we have a work plan, a scheduled work plan that is done 5 years out, and the City of Ukiah and the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District have been on that list for doing our standard sphere updates. So that was already scheduled, and the intent, or the understanding of staff was that would come out of our work plan budget for the most part. Where it becomes difficult, these two in particular, is that they will both likely trigger CEQA reviews above exemptions, which we do not have budget for. And so that is why we have been tracking the City of Ukiah's sphere update with their general plan update, so that the CEQA document for the general plan update could include the analysis for the sphere.
Well, understood. So if these were merely standard MSRs and SOI updates, that cost should be borne by LAFCO. But to the extent that they are seeking changes, then I believe it's our established policy that any entity that is triggering that request for change would bear the cost of it, not have it spread over all of the member jurisdictions of LAFCO. So that's the tricky part, is separating out what is simply MSR SOI update and what is the additional. And certainly the environmental review falls into that. So another part of that is tracking the costs between the agencies. And so again, the RFP, I think, is for services just for the City of Ukiah and the sanitation district. But it relates both to the proposed attachment by the city and the application for annexation by the district.
So the applications are not, we cannot move forward on completing the application processing until the spheres are updated for those agencies, because due to the time since the last sphere update, which was in the 80s in some cases. So LAFCO is required to do the sphere updates periodically, and so that is why it's on our work plan, why they are scheduled for this year. We have also received these applications, which will be processed separately from the sphere updates and are being paid for by the applicants. So that's the separation. When it comes to CEQA, it may be that we can work with the applicants, and that can be something that we would have to work out, is how the CEQA for the sphere updates would work out, because those sphere updates, that's where the applications and the sphere updates have to work together. As those areas have to be addressed in the sphere update and subsequent CEQA.
Well, it's not clear to me that we're protecting LAFCO against paying for work that ought to be paid for by the applicants. But I think I hear you saying this RFP is simply to provide the information to update the MSRs and the SOIs. And it doesn't, or does it, veer off into proposals to either detach area or to expand SOIs.
We would be doing the RFP is to prepare a sphere and municipal service review and sphere update on these agencies, and the applications will be tracking concurrently with that sphere update, billed separately, so that upon adoption of a sphere by the commission, the applications can move forward. Maybe
well,
that
correct.
is that we can
correct.
talk.
So then it inherent inherent in the sphere update is doing the work necessitated by the application to bring about a change in the sphere.
There would
Is that
definitely
correct?
there would definitely be some coordination in that area. Yes.
Well, I'll leave it at that. I have a very serious concern that member organizations that have nothing to do with driving these costs are going to wind up paying for them. So that's a concern that I trust staff will keep uppermost in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McCowan. Commissioner Bazzoni? Any statements or questions?
She seems to have dropped off.
Okay. Maybe that's the reason she was having problems. Hopefully she calls back in and we still do have a quorum. Alternate Commissioner Winkle, any statements, questions?
I also have concerns about allocations, but let it go forward.
Thank you, sir. I would like to report to the commissioners that the executive committee discussed a draft list of consultants for use in soliciting requests, and they approved the list as presented, but more information direction was given to staff that any requests for qualifications or proposals should include a requirement for consultant disclosure of any work performed for the relevant agency and disqualification based on the scope of involvement. I don't know if any of you want to go further on that or comment. Hearing none, we do have 2 items that we need to approve.
Madam Chair, can I make up another question?
Yes, sir.
This is Commissioner Ward. What happens, Uma, if the bids come in higher than we have in our budget? How do you propose we deal with that? Either reject the bids, or how are we going to come out? How's it going to come out of the budget?
I think that's something that we'll have to talk through with the ad hoc committee, and we would be coming to the commission with a report on the proposals. And so I think we would have to address it at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Ignacio.
Yes, sir.
Uma, do you anticipate approval of an RFP by November 2nd, or is this going to go beyond the November meeting?
If we receive approval to release the RFP, we're prepared to do that this week, and then we would be able to stay fairly on track with the post schedule. When we looked at this, this is already assumes, even with this tight schedule, it assumes that no work would start on this until December, which is halfway through the fiscal year already. But working with the ad hoc committee, that's what we hope to do.
So November 2nd, just to be clear, is the date you plan on having the ad hoc committee make the recommendation to the commission?
That is the hope, yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. And
Madam Chair.
Just one moment, please. And as the chair, in consideration of an ad hoc, personally, the chair is set to go out the door soon, and I think the ad hoc needs to be consistent with those that will have longevity. And as chair, he's not present today, but I believe Commissioner Orth has great experience through his many, many years of service with the Community Service District that he sits on. And I'd very much like to see Commissioner Orth as one member of the ad hoc. Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree we should have commissioners who will be here for the long haul and will be here when, hopefully, when these MSRs and SOIs actually come forward. I was hopeful that Commissioner Ignacio would be willing to serve. And then I was also thinking of either Commissioner Orth or Commissioner Ward, but I think any of those three should provide a good balance and would do a good job.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Ignacio.
Yes, sir.
I unfortunately am in an election cycle and I cannot guarantee my reelection.
Commissioner Ward.
Well, I guess I'm the only one left with longevity, huh? Sure, I'll participate in the ad hoc committee.
Thank you. So I'd like to entertain a motion.
Oh, Madam Chair, did we call for public comment?
Oh, thank you very much. Any public comment on this item?
We have Mr. Williams in the waiting room to speak to item 6B. We could bring him in and see if he wishes to speak to this.
Would you do that, please?
Mr. Williams, you're in the meeting. This is for item 6A. And we are soliciting public comment. Do you wish to speak to this item? Mr. Williams? This is for item A. We are soliciting item.
No, ma'am, I don't think so, Ms. Hinman, but I think there's a couple things I'm going to want to circle back with you on based off what I heard. But no comment on 6A. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner McCowan.
thank you. I'll move that we approve the release of the request for proposals and appoint an RFP ad hoc committee consisting of Commissioners Ward and Orth,
Commissioner Ignacio.
and the executive officer. Actually, it has to be just Ward and Orth, but the executive officer, of course, can attend.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Ignacio seconds.
Thank you. Any other comment, commissioners? Hearing none, clerk, please conduct the roll call vote.
Okay, Commissioner Winkle.
Yes.
Commissioner
Just a moment, please. Oh, you are now sitting for Commissioner. No, you're not. So he does not have a vote. Our
Oh,
public
sorry.
member is present, and that is Commissioner Ward.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
So start the roll call again.
All right. Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ignacio,
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Chair Brown.
Yes. And I believe the motion passes.
Yes, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, can we make sure the record reflects that Commissioner Bazzani and Commissioner Orth are not present for that vote?
I was just about to say that. We know Mr. Orth didn't answer the roll call, but Commissioner Bazzoni, for whatever reason, had to go off. Thank you very much.
I've made note of that. Thank you.
Thank you. So going on to item 6B, This is a report on the proposed revisions to the Indemnity Clause. And as stated on August 13th, the Executive Committee met regarding the proposed modifications to the indemnification clause requested by the City of Ukiah. They gave direction to staff to make no changes at this time, and this is a report back to the Commission on this matter. Our attorney, Mr. Brown, was in session with us. He can't be here today, unfortunately, but I did want to report that as we go into item 6B. Uma, do you want to do a further presentation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have anything to add to the presentation. Just as a reminder, we do have Philip Williams in the waiting room to speak to this item.
Yes, and I will do public comment because Commissioner McCowan won't let me get away without doing it, which is legal procedure. So, and yes, I realize Mr. Williams is there. So commissioners, Commissioner Gonzalez, comment or statement? Questions?
No comments. If our attorney was there, then I am good.
Thank you. Commissioner Ignacio.
No comments other than to point out for those listening that in the staff report, the red lines, I would like to get clarification from staff. Are those the included changes or were those the suggested changes?
Those are the proposed changes. So the red underlining are proposed additions, the red strike through proposed permission.
Thank you. I'll reserve comments for later.
Okay, sir. Commissioner McCowan?
It came through on my end a bit garbled, but I think the answer was that the changes shown are the changes that have been requested but are not recommended. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Thank you. It says in the final paragraph of the staff report, it refers to the absence of clear legal authority that such a provision is illegal, meaning and so is that regarding the provision that the recommended indemnity clause apply?
Our legal counsel advised us that the proposed changes were not, outside the legal boundaries of the indemnity. So at that point, it becomes a policy question for the commission.
Correct. But it sounds as if the type of indemnity clause that we're currently considering is unusual. Is that accurate?
I can, please correct me if I am wrong, but I believe that there are other LAFCOs that have similar language in them, in their indemnity. It is not necessarily unusual.
Madam Chair.
Okay, that wasn't clear from the way this was phrased at the bottom. Thank you.
Commissioner Ward.
No comments. I wish our counsel was there to give us more explanation, but I'll go on what was discussed so far.
Okay. Commissioner Ignacio, were you trying to get back on?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I was present at the executive committee meeting, and during that process, we were reviewing other sample LAFCOs, and we were unable to corroborate that these proposed changes exist anywhere else. Pretty much the indemnity boilerplating that our LAFCO has is exists in almost every other LAFCO that we were able, well, not almost, in all the other LAFCOs we were able to reference. We were not able to come up with an example of a LAFCO that has the proposed changes similar to this.
Thank you. And I'd like to go to alternate Commissioner Winkle.
I have some history around indemnity clauses, and they're usually in anticipation of problems. And I think it's important to understand the problems before we make changes like this.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions, commissioners? Hearing none, we'll go to public comment. And Mr. Williams, please state your name for the record, sir.
There'll be a short delay while his video catches up.
Oh, okay.
He is in the room. Oh, here he is.
Questions, commissioners? Hearing
Mr.
none.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, the video is a little bit of a lag, apparently.
Oh,
Yes.
gosh. But thank you, Mr. Williams. Please state your name for the record and
Good
your
morning.
affiliation.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, my name is Philip A. Williams. I'm an attorney for the city of Ukiah and also a resident up on Boonville Road, just outside of Ukiah. I appreciate the opportunity to come before the commission. I got an opportunity last month to speak before the executive committee, and so I will not belabor the point, but we'll try to succinctly capture the comments I offered in August, but also I want to respond to a couple things I just heard this morning. One of which is, Mr. Ignacio, you are correct, sir, that there were a number of indemnity provisions that you were provided, all of which supporting your current language. However, I would suggest to you that there are other counties, and to the commission, that there are other counties that do not have the same kind of language. The broad language, which includes that the applicant itself must also indemnify LAFCO. So while you were provided a certain suite of options, you were certainly not provided with a full suite and perspective on what is actually out there in the state of California. And as an example, I would point you to the county of Fresno. Another responsive point I would like to make to the commission, and I think it's in response to Mr. McCowan's observation on the final paragraph of the staff report about legal authority. I agree with that to the extent that there is not compelling legal authority, meaning there is not, in the world of law, there is not compelling law from a jurisdiction that the county of Mendocino is bound by, meaning you do not have a federal case within which the county of Mendocino falls within, or a state case at any of the appellate levels that would therefore be mandatory, or what we call compelling law on Mendocino LAFCO. However, there is a case out of San Luis Obispo at the Superior Court level. It is case number CV as in Charlie Victor 13-0383, and I would respectfully suggest to the commission that you go read that case. It is not a difficult case to understand, and you will find that it is very analogous to the current situation. My concern here, Commissioner, is two. One, I want to make clear, and I attempted to make this clear in August, that this language, I intended this language as a starting point for discussions, not as language that would that I'm asking actually be included in Mendocino LAFCO's standard terms. I don't know that this is precise enough. I don't know that this is exactly what we would arrive at. The point that I am attempting to drive toward is, I do believe, and I have case law directly behind me on this point, that this indemnity provision, if challenged by a hypothetical applicant, that applicant would be able to assert any number of affirmative defenses to that provision, including lack of consideration, unconscionability, and as against public policy. And I do believe that applicant would prevail. And so what I just want to highlight to the commission is that based off the conversation that we had with the executive committee last month, my concern is, and it is a sincere concern by a resident of Mendocino County, and I hope you, and a member of the bar in Mendocino County, I am concerned that the commission thinks it has something that it does not in fact have. And so I would encourage the commission to continue to reflect on this. I'm not asking that you, again, I'm not asking that you adopt the proposed language in red line that's before you right now. I made that clear last month. I certainly thought I had made that clear. But my concern is you don't have what you think you have. One of the reasons, another reason that Mr. Brown offered to the executive committee for retaining your language, aside from the selected provisions that the executive committee was provided, is that it would dissuade litigation. And I don't really like getting into back and forth with lawyers and public comment, so I didn't respond to his comment, but I would suggest to you that if an indemnity provision is in fact in dispute, and you don't address it at this stage, ladies and gentlemen, then my concern is you're not actually avoiding litigation. You're actually adding potential causes of action. In this case, I believe it would be LAFCO bringing a cause of action against a hypothetical applicant, arguing that this indemnity provision requires some level of indemnity for legal fees or associated costs, and the applicant asserting the very similar affirmative defenses as was brought in the San Luis Obispo case. So his argument about dissuading litigation, ladies and gentlemen, I am very unsympathetic to that argument. So again, I'm not trying to change your minds here, ladies and gentlemen, today. I just want to make sure it's clear, again, from where I sit and where I live, my concern is that you have something that I honestly do not believe you have. And I think that sums up my comments. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, questions of Mr. Williams?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Ignacio to respond.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, for being here, and I appreciate your comments during the executive committee meeting last month. You referenced during that meeting, I believe it was San Luis Obispo, and we looked up their indemnity in real time there, and I'm not sure if you were referring to a different city or not, but it wasn't accurate. And today you tell us that Fresno, we should reference Fresno. I do a quick search and I go right to Fresno LAFCO's site, and there's an indemnity statement freely available to the public that says, and I quote, in the middle, applicant agrees to indemnify, hold harmless, and promptly reimburse Fresno LAFCO for, one, all reasonable expenses and attorney's fees in connection with defense of Fresno LAFCOs. And it goes on, just like the example I stated earlier, that this is a common theme that the applicants have to hold harmless, the LAFCO agency. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Ma'am, this is Phil Williams. I'd also be happy to respond if that would be welcome.
Did we lose our chair?
She's still showing.
I'm sorry, Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a question of Mr. Williams. So it does sound as if, although you cite to LAFCOs that do not have the type of indemnity clause proposed here, you acknowledge that it appears that both are relatively common, or at least not unusual.
If I may answer, ma'am.
Hang on. Commissioners, would you like Mr. Williams to respond?
That's fine with me, Commissioner
Okay.
Ward.
Yeah, and it's pretty much a yes or a no. I mean, both are seem to be standard practice is the question.
Okay, Mr. Williams?
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. McCowan, the answer to your question is yes. However, I want to make sure that I'm being clear in what I believe I'm answering toward. My concern with the indemnity language that Mendocino LAFCO uses, which is very similar to the indemnity language used in a variety of counties, including that which was litigated in the San Luis Obispo case. My concern with that is that the indemnity provision indicates that the applicant itself is waiving claims it may otherwise have available to it. So that, but sir, the answer to your question, Mr. McCowan, is yes, sir. You have counties that use that kind of broad language in including the applicant, requiring that indemnification and waiver of claims, which is how this provision can and has been read. But you also have counties that are not taking that approach. So that Mr. McCowan, that's my attempt to answer your question, sir.
If I may follow up, Madam Chair.
Yes, you may, sir.
Thank you. So if I'm hearing correctly, I think I hear you saying that it's defensible for a LAFCO to require an indemnity clause that would require the applicant to bear the cost of LAFCO defending against a suit by that applicant, but it's very questionable to require them to waive any claims. Is that the main point here?
No, sir. No, no, sir. No. I question whether LAFCO, in performing a statutory mandate, and this is based off the reading of the San Luis Obispo case, and I agree with the reasoning in this case. I think it's very sound from a due process.
Okay, but that so far that is
the answer to my question is no, sir.
Okay. So you object to the clause the way it's written at all. You don't believe an applicant should be required to indemnify for the cost of a lawsuit that it brings?
Yes, I believe the standard, the way as a standard term in the fee agreement. Yes, sir. If the parties enter into a separate contractual arrangement that provides otherwise, well, then of course contract principles would apply.
One more. If it comes to be that the hypothetical applicant is presented with a contract that contains the currently recommended by LAFCO counsel indemnity clause, shouldn't that issue be settled then? Wouldn't it be very questionable if the hypothetical applicant signed the agreement? Everything proceeds forward to a final decision by LAFCO, and then the hypothetical applicant sues, claiming that the indemnity clause is invalid. Shouldn't that be decided up front?
I'm not sure I understand your question, sir.
Well,
if I decided
the
up front,
hypothetical, let me try to clarify. If the hypothetical applicant believes the indemnity clause is invalid, then rather than sign an agreement that contains that clause, shouldn't the hypothetical argument bring suit at that point to clarify the issue?
Well, you could do that. Yes, sir. I would argue that again cuts against Mr. Brown's argument for limiting litigation. The way I think we work around this, sir, is in an attempt to do, which is exactly what I've been working with Ms. Himman on for the past couple months, is trying to address the concern. The reason I don't have a concern with the city of Ukiah signing the indemnification agreement as it is first of all, under contracts of adhesion principles, we have no choice. In order to engage with LAFCO in performing its statutory mandate, we simply have been told we must sign this document. However, in doing so, all contracts are bound to must comport with the law, including due process provisions in the Constitution. So I'm not concerned about. Let me retract that. I am very concerned about the path we're currently taking.
All right.
But
well,
in terms of the strength of the legal position we are in, sir, no, I am not concerned. Although, yes, sir, I do think that it would be more beneficial for parties to work out these issues beforehand. Which is why I'm so grateful for the opportunity to comment.
I think you've answered the question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And then, Mr. Ignacio, if I may, sir, I was going to just respond to your comments, Madam Chair, if that's all right.
Yes.
Oh, so, sir, I want to make sure that I was clear, because perhaps I was not. The language in the County of Fresno is slightly different in that it does not expressly state that this indemnification provision applies to the applicant. And that is the very subtle nuance, but I think it's very important. And regarding the San Luis Obispo case, that language, and I neglected to bring this up, but of course, if I'm introducing this case to you and bringing it to your attention, the language in that case, the indemnity language, is almost exactly what we have in Mendocino County. That case is relatively new. I think it was back at the end of 2019. And I don't really know where they are in drafting, or if they even do intend to redraft. But I do know that there's a Superior Court decision that's expressing significant reservations with the language in San Luis Obispo County, which is very, very similar, if not exactly the same, to the language that we have here. So it's a very subtle nuance, and I just want to be clear there. I'm not, and I've made clear to staff that I think it's entirely I believe it is entirely appropriate and lawful for LAFCO to require the applicant to indemnify LAFCO against third-party claims.
So, Mr. Williams?
Yes, ma'am.
We need to move on. Commissioners, any other statements, questions?
Madam Chair, I have a question. It's not for Mr. Williams, it's for staff.
Okay, hang on just 1 minute then.
Okay.
Ms. Hinman, are there any other public comments to be made? Anyone else that wants to speak?
We have no one else in the waiting room, and we've received no public comment via email.
Okay, thank you. So this matter is back to the commission. Commissioner Gonzalez?
I had nothing more, and I just want to thank Mr. Williams for coming here today.
Okay, thank you. Was someone else speaking up that had a question of Ms. Hinman?
Yeah, Commissioner Ward did.
I am sorry, I got voices interchanged. Commissioner Ward.
That's okay, thank you. This indemnification refers to our SOI MSR reports, correct? This is for UMA.
This indemnification is what is included on all of our agreement for services that go with the applications and must be signed and submitted as part of the application.
Is it true that most of the information we derive from these jurisdictions come from the jurisdictions?
For the municipal service reviews?
Yes.
That is correct. But again, this is not for an MSR or sphere update. This is something submitted with applications for reorganization.
Just reorganizations only and annexations?
annexations, detachments, applications to for latent powers, any of our applications that require commission action for changing part of a jurisdiction's powers or boundaries.
I know it's been a while since we've had one of those, but I'm sure we have had. Has there been any issues with that indemnification in the past that you're aware of?
No, not that I'm aware of. And I will remind the commission too that this is just an informational report out from the executive committee. When I'm not asking for any action on this, and this is not a specific proposal to the commission at this time. This is a report on what the executive committee discussed at its August 13th meeting. The commission does have the ability to assign this to the Policies and Procedures Committee for further review or discussion, and to bring it back at a later time to the commission.
Is this going to be on our agenda for tomorrow for the Policy and Procedures?
No, no. We actually don't have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow at this time, so.
We had one scheduled for 11 o'clock on Tuesday or Wednesday this week.
I will confirm after the meeting and let the Policies and Procedures Committee meeting know.
Okay, the last question is, I wanted to thank Commissioner Ignacio for that information. He was quick to look up Fresno and San Luis Obispo. Thank you on that. And lastly, I really got some reservations about this whole process with the city of Ukiah. If we're arguing about indemnification now, what it's going to mean to us in the future. So I have some concerns about that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, commissioners, any direction?
I have one more question, Madam Chair.
Commissioner McCowan, go forward.
Regarding the paragraph labeled indemnity, and again, I understand this is what is being recommended, and then showing in underline and strike through the changes that have been asked for by the city of Ukiah. And I just want to clarify the original language. If we go down to the fourth line from the bottom, and we see there's been, oh wait, let's find, okay, I answered my own question. Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, anyone else?
Madam Chair, I recommend we receive this report. Thank Mr. Williams for participating. And it would be my suggestion, this Commissioner Ignacio, that we direct staff to monitor the ongoings of the San Luis Obispo case for possible outcomes that may affect us.
Okay, thank you. And further, Ms. Hinman, perhaps that direction can also go to our attorney for information of, how that case proceeds. Although I don't want charges. So I don't know how you get on receiving information on that case. But maybe that's the question you need to ask of Mr. Brown.
Thank you. I will follow up with him.
Okay.
Also, for the record, Commissioner Bazzani did join us again at 9:50.
Okay, thank you. Welcome back, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Yes, this world, and I might add, I was on mute, and I did that. I keep going on and off because otherwise it interferes with whomever's speaking. At least my feedback does. So if I don't come on, tell me I'm on mute. So thank you, and thank you, Mr. Williams. We're going to move on to item 6C, and this is a fee schedule update report. And again, you can see on the agenda item that the executive committee took this up as an item on their agenda August 13th, and we've asked the staff, we gave her direction to prepare an analysis of staff billing rates for the commission, consideration at a later date. Ms. Hinman, do you want to go forward, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that covers a lot of it. Just as a reminder to the Commission, LAFCO application fees are charged on a time and expense basis with deposits required based on the anticipated cost by the type of application. Current billing rates for staff are identified in the fee schedule, and at this time they're a straight pass-through of the consultant billing rates. So more typically, with LAFCO's billing rates include a portion of administrative overhead and in some cases a portion of long-term studies such as MSRs and SPHERE updates. So staff is working on an analysis of staff billing rates and will bring forward a proposal at a future meeting. I will note that the Cortese Knox Hertzberg specifies a public review process for updating fee schedules, which consists of a public hearing and advanced review times, as well as a delay in effective dates. Again, this is an informational report to the Commission. However, the Commission is welcome to provide comment or direction to staff.
Okay, thank you. And going down the list, Commissioner McCowan, do you have comment?
No comment.
Commissioner Bazzoni, comment? I think she's back on. Maybe you're on mute.
Okay, no comment. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Worth's not here. Commissioner Ward.
No comment, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
No comment.
Commissioner Ignacio.
No comment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Alternate Commissioner Winkle.
No comment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So staff, any final comment? And then we'll go to public comment.
No comments at this time.
Okay. Anyone from the public?
We have no members of the public, and we have received no emails.
Okay. Back to the commission, and I think you have direction to move forward, and it was an informal agenda item anyway. So moving on to 6D, CALAFCO 2020 Board of Directors election. Ms. Hinman, you want to do an introduction?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This item was discussed at our last meeting with direction to bring it back for this meeting. There are 2 upcoming openings on the CALAFCO Board of Directors for the Northern region. Currently, those seats are held by Josh Sussman, who is a member of the public from Nevada County, and Blake Inscore, who is a city member from Del Norte. CALAFCO is now accepting nominations for a city member and a public member. The deadline for submitting a nomination is September 22nd. Also, because the CALAFCO in-person annual conference has been canceled this year, the elections will take place by email and during the virtual annual business meeting, which will be held in October. Each member LAFCO is required to select a voting delegate who will be responsible for completing the electronic election ballot process and participating in the virtual annual business meeting. The CALAFCO Board of Directors nomination packet is in your agenda packet starting on page I just lost it. In your agenda packet. So staff is requesting direction from the commission regarding 1, whether the commission wishes to submit a nomination for either the city or public member, and also 2, selecting a voting delegate for staff and CALAFCO to work with on the ballot and election process. The deadline for submittal of both these items is September 22nd.
And that is coming right up.
Yes.
Okay. And actually, I'd like to begin comment on this. for a voting delegate, if possible, one of our long-standing members, Commissioner Ward, I would like to see if he is acceptable to being our voting delegate. I think he's attended a number of these elections with the annual CALAFCO meetings. So anyway, that's my comment, and so I'll go to Commissioner Ward.
I will accept as long as you don't include me as a board of director for CalAFCO.
Well, that would take a lot of time. I surely understand. Commissioner Gonzalez.
I would agree that Commissioner Ward is the right man for the job.
Thank you. Commissioner Ignacio.
Jerry would be perfect for the job. He has my support. And just the question earlier, we're on page 47 of the packet.
Thank you. Commissioner McCowan.
I agree with comments made.
Commissioner Bazzoni.
I agree that Commissioner Ward would be.
Thank you very much. Alternate Commissioner Winkle.
I think that Commissioner Ward would do an excellent job.
Great, thank you. Uma, do we need to do any type of certification for Commissioner Ward to be our voting delegate?
I believe it's just direction to staff. If you wish to vote on it, you can do that.
I don't think we need to vote, but many times organizations have a certificate verifying who the voting delegate or delegates are. So anyway, I think you have direction, and if there is certification, you can take care of that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Question, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir, and then we'll go to public comment.
This is Commissioner Ward. When is the date of the election for the delegate to vote? Is that the 21st?
I'll get that packet of information to you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anyone for public comment?
Madam Chair, a comment on the last topic.
Yes, sir.
Looking at the packet, looks like October 21st are ballots due by 4 p.m. And on October 22nd, the elections will be tabulated for CalAFCO.
Thank you for finding that. I was trying to get on my computer and it wasn't working.
On page 47.
Okay. All righty. So no public comment on 6D. We'll move on to 6E, Commissioner Terms of Office and Special District Member Election. Ms. Hinman, would you please give a presentation on this?
Thank you. This item is another informational item to update the Commission on commissioner terms and processes for election of special district representatives. The current vacancy left by Commissioner Huff and Commissioner Orth's term ends in 2020, and Commissioner's terms ending in 2020 are listed on page 61 of your agenda packet. While the County Board of Supervisors and the City Selection Committee appoint the county and city representatives to the Commission annually, the executive officer implements the special district representative elections on behalf of the Special District Selection Committee, as provided for in the CK Cortese Knox Hertzberg. Commissioner Huff's vacancy was created when he resigned from the Mendocino Coast Recreation and Park District in the end of July. We initiated the nomination process to fill his vacancy. At the end of August. We initiated the nomination process to fill his vacancy with a deadline of September 15th. We have received 6 nominations to date. Due to the interest expressed, which necessitates an election, we're exploring combining the process with nomination and election for Commissioner Orr's seat, which ends this year. Doing so will be a cost savings and also streamline the process. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I wanted to ask on Commissioner Gonzalez, representing cities. It says, term ending December 31st, but there's no year, but it would be 2020 for Mr. Gonzalez. Is that correct?
I believe mine ends at the end of the year, and so my name is spelled wrong.
Okay. Gonna write that in. Anyone else for comment? Instead of going down the list, please chime in if you have questions or statements, and state your name for the record. Anyone that desires to speak on this item? So, Ms. Hemman, we're going to combine this election process, correct?
Correct. We're looking at extending the nomination period and combining this process with notice of Commissioner Orr's upcoming term ending. And so then we would have a single election for both processes.
Okay.
Commissioner Ward has a question.
Yes, sir. Go forward.
Is Tony and Jerry both interested in pursuing another term? Do you know?
I believe Commissioner Orr may be interested, but that was not an official yes.
I believe he is, in my conversation with him.
I hope both of them do. It would be good for the commission.
I agree. Commissioner Gonzalez?
Is that a question about pursuing another term, or?
Yes, sir.
It's my understanding at the last city selection committee that one of the other cities might have shown interest, but obviously it depends on the who gets reelected. I am up for reelection, but I am running unopposed. But I guess I would just say to the CALAFCO board in general, if it's my turn to step off as a city person, I would be interested in coming back on as an alternate if you so desire.
Okay, thank you for that update. I hope that you come on as the main representative. There'll be a lot of business. Having someone new coming in would be really difficult for them. So maybe they should come in as the alternate. Maybe you should suggest that. Fight for the seat. So we'll go to public comment.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you. Just one brief comment. The Board of Supervisors representatives will be appointed at the new board's first meeting in January. I think it showed here December.
Well, it's December 31st that terms end, but I guess I need to go back and read the agenda item, the information. But you're absolutely correct, and that would be the first Tuesday of January 2021 that those appointments are made. Correct?
Correct. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Ignacio, the city selection committee typically gets notice after the election, and similarly to the county, sets a meeting for early in January. I'm still in my 4-year primary term, and it would be great if Jerry could stay on as well.
Okay. Then I don't remember if I asked this, but do we have public comment?
No public.
Okay. Commissioners, any information further, or can we move on?
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Gonzalez. I just wanted to add one more thing.
Yes, sir.
For the sake, since usually the City Selection Committee, sometimes there's a lag between who makes mayor and how that works. I would probably recommend that we not agendize any carryover for the month of January, potentially even February, just in case. That's just my thought. Last time it seemed like there was a lag in getting folks on there.
Okay. And I'm not sure if you can continue in office until replaced or a new appointment. Ms. Hinman, are you aware of any language so you can have at least a quorum for your meeting in January?
I'm not aware of any language to that effect, but I will certainly look into that.
Okay, and if we could have a report back of what legalities are, I really appreciate that for our October meeting.
Okay, will do.
All right. So moving on to item 7, this is information and report items. Let's begin with 7A, and this is the work plan, current and future proposals. You had a written update, but do you want to summarize it, please?
Thank you. This starts on page 63 of your agenda packet. Happy to report that the WAGR application is completed. We received a notice from the Board of Equalization that they have accepted the information and the new tax rate areas. The City of Ukiah, so we have 3 new applications. We have the City of Ukiah Detachment, Ukiah Valley Sanitation District served areas. We have the City of Ukiah pre-application for annexation of areas north of the city. That includes the Brush Street Triangle, the Masonite area properties, and the city's water treatment plant. We also have a pre-application, a joint pre-application from the Ukiah Valley Fire District and the City of Ukiah regarding annexation of the City of Ukiah into the Fire District. So we are working on those. As far as updating on the work plan, we discussed process for moving forward with the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District and the City of Ukiah. We also have a partially completed administrative draft for the Covelo Community Services District. And then also we continue to work, or the County Service Area number 3 MSR SOI is still on hold. And that's all I have unless there are questions.
Commissioner Ward has a question.
Yes, sir. Go forward.
From the budget tracking, UMA, the Uyghur detachment, or was that end up being a $16 refund check to them?
That's correct, yes. So
Okay,
we'll have that on next month.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions or statements? Hearing none, I'd just like to note that the Executive Committee, Commissioner Orth requested that we have for a future meeting a discussion and review of the CSA 3 and potential questions to legal counsel as to whether the county needs to go through a LAFCO process for activation of latent powers. So anyway, he felt very strongly that we needed a legal opinion requesting and regarding LAFCO's jurisdiction of CSA 3s. And I'd like to ask staff, is that going to be a future presentation?
I'll be working with our legal counsel on that, and yes, we can report on that at a future meeting.
Okay, I just wanted to add that since it is on this particular agenda item, so more information will be coming back. So moving forward to 7B, correspondence. Has there been any correspondence?
No correspondence to note.
Okay. Moving forward to 7C, Executive Officers Report. This is a verbal report. Ms. Hinman, go forward.
Thank you. I wanted to let the commission know that we are still not holding office hours because of the COVID pandemic. We do regularly go into the office to collect mail and respond to informational needs. We're also working on the year-end financial reports, and we'll be working with the treasurer on those as we get the audit going for last year. On a personal note, one other thing is that the website has been down this week, and so we were not able to post the agenda and meeting materials on the website. Pacific Internet hosting service is down and has been all week. Not sure if it's related to the fires or some other reason, but they are aware and have been working on it. There's no time scheduled. They don't know yet when it will be fixed. On a personal note, I want to I've been in an evacuation warning zone all week long, which has been pretty stressful, and I want to thank Larkin and Kristen for helping get the packet together and out, and also appreciate the Commission's patience as we work through technical difficulties. It's been a difficult week, I'm sure, for everyone. I think that's all I have, unless there's any specific questions from the Commission.
And thank you. And Pacific Internet, I will say my internet has been in and out, but the broadband has been as well. I mean, it's crazy, and I feel it is what we're going through right now with the fires, the smoke, etc. But Pacific Internet did not respond back saying what the difficulties were exactly. Ms. Hinman? They don't know yet even what the issues are, is my understanding. They do have a notice on their website that says that things are down, and it's a significant problem on there, is what they say. Okay, well, thank you very much, and we just all, I guess, need to be patient these days. And sure understand the evacuation order and the stress that could bring on as well. So thank you very much, and to all staff, thank you for all you do. Moving on to committee reports, 7D, policies and procedures. Do you have a report?
We are in the process of scheduling a meeting, and I think there's been some confusion on the date, and I do apologize for that. We have not gotten an agenda out, so I know that the meeting will not be happening tomorrow. We will be working with folks to schedule that meeting as soon as possible. So we will be reaching out.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Uma, I have a schedule for Wednesday at 11. Does that still create a problem for your agenda?
We have to. It is a Brown Act meeting, so we will have to have 72 hours. So I think
72 hours. Okay.
Yeah, we won't be able to hold it Wednesday.
Now, are these meetings by Zoom as well?
Yes, they will be Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I would like to report one other item for the Executive Committee. Much of what the Executive Committee had on their agenda for their meeting in August has been on this agenda for today, with the exception of electronic signature policy. And due to the continued pandemic conditions, we're really not sure of the length of time, the Executive Committee directed staff to work with the Policy and Procedures Committee to develop a policy for electronic signatures for Commission consideration. So I hope that's going to be, Ms. Hinman, on an upcoming agenda item, upcoming meeting for policies and procedures. Thank you. So anyone else comment?
Commissioner Ward has a comment.
Yes, sir.
I've been, Savings Bank has been calling me for approval on checks,
Yes, sir.
So in the meantime, we'll continue to do that. I can also go to Savings Bank if need be. I just wanted to let you know that I'm available, and either by phone to approve them or physically go to the bank. But I assume we'll continue that until we come up with electronic signature.
Yes, and actually, I did do the full email to staff at the savings bank, so I'm sorry that you were being called.
That's no problem. It happens all the time here in my business as well. So.
But anyway, just so you're aware, staff sets up a time to drop a folder off to Commissioner McCowan, because it's just a few blocks from the office.
Okay.
He signs the checks, and then they're distributed, but I'm given the whole list, the check numbers, as well as the payable and the amount.
Okay.
I do go back and check, and then I email Savings Bank that I can be the second signature on the check for verbal approval. So, you know, either you or me will get them paid.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure they will. I just wanted to let you know I'm available.
Great. Thank you so very much. Okay. Anything else, commissioners? We're going to end our meeting on 7F with CALAFCO Business and Legislative Report. Ms. Hinman?
Well, we do have one correspondence from CALAFCO for this item, which is on page 65 of your packet. It's a letter just letting folks know about that there will be no virtual conference or conference this year, that they will be having some meetings and for discussion, particularly about the Board of Directors elections and direction for the annual achievement awards, etc. If there's any questions on that, I'd be happy to follow up with CALAFCO.
Commissioners, questions, statements?
Commissioner Ward has a question.
Yes, sir.
Well, I believe that the Board of Director elections is October 22nd. We will have a LAFCO meeting prior to that. So I'd like to get some recommendations on some Board of Directors that we'd like to vote for at that meeting, if we could.
I can add that to the October agenda.
Thank you.
And thank you, Commissioner Ward, for recommending that. I think it's very beneficial. I think last year, 2 years ago, whatever the terms are, our vote went for someone that was from our region to represent our interests, which I thought was very good.
Good. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Any other business, commissioners? All righty. I want to thank you all very much, and we'll meet again first Monday in October. And what is that date, staff?
October 5th.
October 5th. Yep.
All righty. I should have known that. Didn't write it down. So thank you, everyone. We're going to adjourn the meeting at 10:34. Take care.
Madam Chair.
Safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.